Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, my viewers. This is Shahab Karni from Television I-95 Washington studio. As you can look and see in the ticker, it says Urban America by TV I-95. That is one of the segments that we are introducing or launching. We have the first episode today. Why Urban America? Because Urban America is emerging financial market in America. There are a lot of urban centers, but at the same time, we have got a lot of challenges, issues, but we need to talk about solutions of urban America as well. So being said that, Baltimore, I call it city of Baltimore is a port city in Northeast Corridor, very important and vital city in urban America. We have issues and challenges. So to talk about that, one, the second thing is focus of our conversation today will be misunderstood young entrepreneurs from Baltimore City. The most appropriate person that I was able to connect with is a very old friend of ours, Dr. Marjorie Adams, who is a professor also at Morgan State Business School. Good morning, Dr. Marjorie Adams. How are you today?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you
Dr.
for having me.
Adams, before we come to the subject matter, we would like to hear from you the proper introduction. Who is Dr. Marjorie Adams and how we call you Dr. Marjorie Adams? Give us a
Well,
profile, give us some steps, of your journey of progression. Thank you.
oh, okay. Very good. Well, just as a little bit of background, I am a native Baltimorean and I love the city of Baltimore. And I've seen it go through many areas of transition, and we're in a transition now, just like the rest of the country. And so, my education, I grew up, as I said, in Baltimore. I'm a product of the Baltimore City public school system. I did most of my formal education in this area, undergraduate in communications from Towson University, master's of business administration and management from the University of Baltimore, master of arts in theology from St. Mary's Seminary and University, and doctorate of business administration from the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. So my formal education is there. I have a very strong commitment and love for this area, and particularly for Baltimore, and definitely want to see the city to strive. I spent some time in broadcast journalism as a news reporter and as an anchor. And as I transitioned through public relations, working as a public relations consultant for the National Office of the NAACP. Did some work there, worked as a consultant with the American Bible Society out of New York and some other things, and then went on to become a professor, first at Coppin State University for about 5 years, did a little bit of time in the graduate program at Johns Hopkins University, and I've been at Morgan State University for the past, I'll put it out there, 30 years. So just enjoying that, helping students, helping to bring out the best in them and to help them move towards accomplishing their goals of entrepreneurship, working in corporate, and even some going into teaching and furthering their education as well.
Dr. Adam, on a lighter note, is there anything that you missed in your lifetime?
Is there anything that I missed? Well, I don't know. I have a strong faith, and I trust the Lord Jesus, and He guides me. And so, where I thought my career path was going to go, there were steps along the way to get me to the point where I am today. And so, other things are there. I'm not done. He's not finished with me. So I just continue to press on and just
The,
think in the
the
future.
reason I mentioned to you this aspect of your life because I had known you and your family for almost close to 20 plus years now, and
Yes.
the first time we met was your community engagement with respect to your church, missionary, if you remember, music.
Yes.
orchestras. So those are the thing I wanted our audience to know, that those are also not missing in professor or doctor. We call it Dr. Margie Adams' lifespan or her passion. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now, when I said city of Baltimore, like any big urban center of America, we have a lot of issues and challenges. What are those challenges? And then we're going to come back to the topic that I mentioned. Go ahead, please.
Well, some of the basic underlying challenges that we have, and I believe it's statewide, it could be countrywide, but it stems from our educational system. The educational system for our children needs an overhaul. It's broken, and because it's broken, and it seems as though I know there are people who are in the system who know that there are things that needs to be done. But unfortunately, I've seen over the years how we have changed the system, and we needed some changes, but we've changed the system from some simplistic things to go along with what other communities were doing across the country that did not necessarily make sense for us. Simple example, coming up in the school system, there are some things that were very basic that were taught. For example, phonics. And phonics helps you to read, phonics helps you to spell. And when phonics was taken out of the school system, you can just see a correlation between the reading ability and the spelling ability of our students. And so some basic things were done because were done and tried because that was what was going on in other areas. But just because it's going on in another area and it may or may have been working in another area, I'm not sure. But it doesn't mean that that's what we need to do. And just looking at some other manuals, teachers have been not given the leeway, and it's been taken away from them, taken out of their hands to have the leeway to really educate their children based on where their children in their classroom, their children are. And because they have to make it through this manual that they have been given. And if they're not at a certain spot at a certain time, then they're being evaluated based on you're being behind, not based on the children are actually learning and progressing from point to point. So one of the biggest things is the educational system. Then we have a situation when students have to pass this test in high school in order to get their high school diploma. But the things that they have to pass typically are things that are not going to make them productive citizens, is not going to make them strong citizens, because I don't know. For me, in terms of algebra, how often have I used algebra since I had it in the eighth and ninth grade? I haven't. Honestly, I have not used it. But in order to get a high school diploma in the state of Maryland, you have to pass an algebra proficiency exam. And now we're looking at why we have a 50% or more, in some instances, dropout rate in our school system. Because one, we're not teaching fundamentals from elementary school straight on up. Fundamentals, addition, counting, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and so forth. We're skipping all around helping students to pass a test, but not educating them to be productive and pass in life, to progress in life. So for me, the underlying thing is we have a broken education system in Baltimore City, and I know it spreads in a great degree in the public school system throughout our state. And until we fix that, we're going to have problems with our children learning and really progressing in the way that they are capable of, in the way that they need to.
Thank you. Dr. Adams, question is, you pointed a serious major challenge, issue, and a problem in education system. Question is, who is supposed to be fixing the problem? Who is responsible?
Well, I believe that the people who are in place to fix the problem are the people typically who have allowed the problem to persist and they may not be the exact persons because people have changed from school boards year after year after year, but they're the people who need to listen to the teachers. The school board needs to listen to the teachers and let the teachers tell them what they need to do and how they need to be able to do it to make it effective. Now, I've been teaching only at the college level, but I have a sister-in-law who retired after 33 years of teaching and administration in the Baltimore City public school system. And some of the incidents that she has told where they were forced to, as an administrator, they were forced to pass students along to the next grade. She was elementary, pass students along to the next grade when they were not ready, and because they could not hold back a certain number of students. Even the parents of the students wanted the children to be held back so that they could learn their first grade skills. And my sister-in-law warning them, the higher administrators from North Avenue, look, if you do this, our second grade test scores are going to go down the drain next year. And what happened? The second grade test scores went down the drain the next year, and they came back and told her she was right. But now you have destroyed this whole group of kids who should have been in the first grade learning, and now they're frustrated because they don't know what they need to know to go forward. So we have to look at and listen to the teachers, and teachers wanting to hold students back is not a teacher who has failed to be productive, who has failed in their task, and so now they need to be fired. That is not the case. It is a teacher who has the integrity to say, look, we've worked with this child. This child is not ready to go to the next grade. Let's get this child ready for the next grade. One more year, let's work with them another year, and maybe even halfway through the year, we may be able to progress them to the next grade. And so what we need to do is listen to the teachers who are in the classroom, who have hands-on with the kids day after day, and they know what is needed in the classroom so that the children can progress and we can change that high dropout rate dynamic that is plaguing our school system.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Adams, let's come back to the initial conversation that we are supposed to be having under the title Most Misunderstood Young Entrepreneur in Baltimore City. Please tell our audience what exactly that means.
Well, a lot of times we are looking at people, young people particularly, who are entrepreneurial, and they're not fitting into the mold necessarily of what would consider traditional employment. They're not working at the mall. They're not working in a restaurant. They're not doing those types of things, but they are doing things that are legal and that are entrepreneurial. And as a result, they're being misunderstood. Some of them may have high school diplomas. Some of them may have education a little bit beyond high school. Some of them may not have a high school diploma, but they're doing something that is legal, that's putting money in their pocket. They're reinvesting in their businesses, and they're moving forward, and they're providing a service. Example, we call them the squeegee kids. Some people have problems with them, but if we have to understand, there is what's called self-fulfilling prophecy. If I come to your car and you curse me out, and I'm talking as one of the boys on who are doing the squeegee kids, and you curse me out, the response is to respond to you in that same way. Because, first of all, you have disrespected me as a human being. You have disrespected me as a human being and as an entrepreneur. And so, since that's the way you came off at me, then that's the way I'm going to respond to you. Self fulfilling prophecy. However, on the other hand, if you don't want your window washed and you just put your hand up and say, no, that's okay, and they go on, then that's the end of the story. But these young men, for the most part, I haven't seen any young ladies out. I mean, they may be somewhere, but these young men are entrepreneurs. They're out there. That you give them whatever you want to give them after they clean your windshield, they wipe it off, front, back, what have you. Sometimes, even if, and this is my experience, even if I say, look, I have no money, I don't have anything, that's okay, I don't have any money. They say, that's okay, we'll do it, I'll do it for you anyway. And they'll clean the windshield anyway. And you give them a thank you, and some of them put a little heart on the window with their squeegee sponge thing, and that's it. And you go along along your way. And but these young men are entrepreneurs. You see them with their Windex bottles. So obviously they have to go back and get more Windex. They have their squeegee rods. They do all of this. They're entrepreneurs. They're not out hurting anyone. They're not out harming anyone. They're working, and they'll be there all day. That is an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur works more hours typically than a person who has a 9 to 5 job, because the entrepreneurs out there 7 o'clock in the morning and they don't leave until it's dark. And so, I believe these young men are misunderstood. Typically, they are careful in terms of the traffic. None of them wants to get hit by anyone. None of them wants to be hurt. None of them is out there to hurt or harm anyone. They just want to make some legal money, and that's the way that they found to do it.
Question, Dr. Adam, is that what needs to be done in economic and business sense to support, upgrade capacity building for these young people within urban America, within big cities like Baltimore? We are using as a model, as an example. Go ahead.
Okay, so some things that can be done, since these gentlemen are working in, let's say, the auto industry, so to speak. Maybe we can put facilities together. We have so many vacant buildings, vacant warehouses, things of that nature that aren't being used. Maybe we can transform some of these to an auto detailing place. Maybe we can teach them some marketing, teach them some advertising, have places available for them to actually have people come in and get their cars washed, detailed, and those types of things. Perhaps we need to put something in place so that we can have some real vocational training. Everyone is not going to go to college, and everyone does not need to go to college. I don't care what socioeconomic background you're from. Everyone is not going to college, and everyone does not want or need to go to college. And so we need to have some vocational training, real vocational training back in our school systems. and it's been taken out. I understand that there are schools, for example, Mergenthaler, we call it Mervo, has a tremendous auto mechanic program, but there's no one really there to teach it. And there are facilities there that are not being used. Douglas has a communication program. There are facilities there that are not being used because people are not there to teach it. So we need to put real vocational education back into the school system. We need to bring the arts back into the school system. Every child from elementary school straight through high school in Baltimore City, if they want to play a musical instrument, should have the opportunity to do that. If they want to study art, they should have the opportunity to do that. If they want auto mechanics, cosmetology, carpentry, whatever the case may be, they ought to be able to do it because it ought to be in our school system. We need to have real vocational education, and we need to have the arts back into our school system in every single school, not just Baltimore School of the Arts, not just Western, not just Poly, but in every single school from elementary straight through senior high school. These are things that need to be there, and there need to be real vocational educational programs in Baltimore City public schools. Carver had it, Mergenthaler had it, but we need to really build up these programs and make them such that when students come out of these programs, they are, as part of the programs, they take licensing exams, they do apprenticeship programs and all those types of things. Bricklayers. I mean, it's just all of these things. Plumbing. People need to have that opportunity. HVAC. All of these things. You don't have to go to college for that. But there are a lot of people who want to do these things. And so if it's in the school system where it is free education, you have people going into these programs and you have people who are become entrepreneurs and working in those industries. And so we won't have the issues that some of the issues that we have in terms, again, of dropping out and whatnot. We don't make education, we haven't made education interesting.
And practical. And practical. Now,
And practical,
so,
exactly.
Dr. Marjorie Adams, final 2 minutes. I mean, you gave us the challenge, the issue, especially with the young folks. You also led us towards the solution and a model that can be created in Baltimore City, and then that can be duplicated in other urban centers. Final 2 minutes. Give us a message. We want to hear from you. Who is going to do all this? Where are the missing dots? Where is the disconnect? Please go ahead.
Well, part of the disconnect is if I'm looking at Baltimore City and that's where we are. Part of the disconnect is a situation where we have money that comes into the city's budget and we don't know what happened to it. We have millions of dollars that are spent and we don't know where it went. And there has to be accountability. I remember some years ago, students needed books in our schools, and we had warehouses full of the books that the students needed that were not being distributed. We need real accountability, and it starts with the mayor's office, the comptroller, the city council people, and it just trickles right on down. And so, the teachers are crying out that they need supplies. The administrators are crying out that they need supplies. Teachers are going into their own pocketbooks, their own wallets to purchase items for their classrooms, which they should not have to do because we have the money in the city. The money is there. We're spending it on communication equipment that should not need to be that doesn't need to be done. We're putting money in red light cameras where the company is changing the cameras so they can put more tickets out there for people because they're adjusting them wrong, and then we go back, we stop it, and we go back and we bring that same company in to do it again. We have to have some accountability. We have to do some things right. If a company has misrepresented itself to the city, if the company has cheated the city and cheated the citizens of this city, then that company does not have the privilege to come back and get a contract with the city. And so all of these types of things need to be looked at. All of these types of things need to be dealt with. And it starts with the mayor's office. The mayor has to know what's going on in the city. The mayor has to know where every single dollar is spent. Every dollar, not part of it, but every dollar. There has to be accountability in that office, in the controller's office, with every council person. And so if we want to make some changes, it has to start there. We have to listen to teachers. We have to listen to administrators. We cannot discount them. These are the people who are on the front line of educating our children. And we need to listen to them. And we need to listen to the children. We have to listen to them from elementary school straight through senior high school. We have to listen to them and find out what they need, what they want, what they'd like to see, what they'd like to experience. They're the ones who know, and they're like the missing link in the equation. We're always saying, this is what we're going to do, this is what you need, this is where you need to go, this, etc. But we never ask the children. We never ask these young people what it is they want, what it is they need. And so until we do that, until we handle that, until we take care of that, we're going to have problems in our city, starting with our educational system. When you get people educated, then you give those young people, you give people an opportunity to succeed. And again, whatever that education is, whether it takes them to college, whether it takes them to vocational programs, whether it takes them to different types of activities, different types of programs, we need to start with the education. Again, I cannot stress it enough. Every child is not going to college. Every child does not need to go to college. Every child just doesn't want to go to college. Some things you do, you don't have to go to college. You just don't. And so, I can start naming people who didn't go to college who are extremely successful that we all know, or who dropped out that we all know. But the thing is, we have to understand that there are many avenues to success, and a lot of those avenues do not include a college education. So you cannot have everyone in a college prep program.
Thank you, Dr. Marjorie Adams. Very powerful voice with powerful ideas. But with that note, to my audience and to you, Dr. Marjorie Adams, with a commitment that our whatever limited capacity, the I-95 channel, we are going to continue this conversation for developing the urban cities, especially starting from Baltimore City, to create a
Yes.
model with help. Like people like you should be on the panel conversation. The conversation goes on, Dr. Marjorie.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
so God bless you. Stay
God bless
well,
you, sir.
and we will be reconnecting with you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.